Remember those arguments that would happen between people who prefer one console over another? Weren't those people stupid? It's obvious that the arcade is the best option. You want total immersion and all for the spare change in your wallet? And I don't mean in a way that makes you look like a drunk X-Men. Arcades are for people who want to be badass, and I'm going to talk about the most badass game to play, House of the Dead 3. Sure, you got a huge gun that makes you look like you're compensating for something, but you know, it makes me remember why there isn't a law banning firearms in the USA. Just ashamed as I can't record arcade cabinets and had to use the Wii version. God damn it, Sega, there's a reason they made arcade guns so big. If I wanted to play with something the size of an actual penis, I have that ability. The game starts with Rogan from the first game going through a facility with his crew when suddenly they find something that makes them so excited they don't even realize half the floor is missing, making them trip over. 2 weeks pass and Rogan's daughter Lisa and ex-partner G trying to find out what happened to them. In fact, can we just have a little talk about Lisa? So she's here to save her dad, which is fine, but she's a 19-year-old girl. I don't mean to sound offensive, but sometimes when you're in a situation where emotions are running high, maybe the teenage daughter of the hostage isn't the best candidate to be holding offensive weaponry. I mean, really think about it. When have you ever heard of a story in which a young woman goes off with an older man to a remote location and in the end, everything turns out fine? Not to mention, you seem to get the impression Lisa doesn't even like Rogan. She complains about how he always puts work ahead of his family, but you know, when the dude is socially obligated to let you freeload off them for a large portion of your life, I can understand if the guy wants to get away from me from time to time. And speaking of her family, who is Lisa's mum? Rogan's fiancée Sophie died in the first game. Heck, her death was the main motivation to the plot. Are we to assume Rogan's a bit of a slut or Sophie was alive? I mean, it's a completely valid theory. She only got a halberd in her stomach. Oh, and if it isn't enough that Lisa has to end every boss with a one-liner, even G tries to go for one before thinking, sod it. Notice how Lisa is the only character in this game to wear a badge. So if it wasn't bad enough that she needs quips to be the center of attention, she also requires a giant arrow-shaped insignia pointing right at her chest. Yeah, because your tits were so small we barely noticed them under that tight orange leather jacket. Speaking of orange, between every chapter there's a cutscene with Curien, the villain from the first game, talking to his dying son. And I get what they were going for with the filter and the scan lines, but the first House of the Dead was set in 1998, not the 1930s. Oh, and can we get this kid off screen, please? In a game where I'm wielding a big-ass shotgun, mortality isn't the first thing on my mind. Getting back on point, when Sophie and G go through the facility, they quickly become victim to a monster named Death. I know it's human nature to want to look nice, but why the hell does this thing care about wearing a corset? The guy even trims his nails. You're a 10-foot buff dude wearing shackles. The cleanliness of your hands is not the first thing we're looking at. Oh, and did you notice his hat? In the fight, you can knock it off his clean-shaven head, which seems to make him even angrier and more desperate to kill you, but when you have to fight him again, he goes to the effort of retrieving his hat before finishing the mission. There are terrorists in this world that give less of a shit about showing their head. I get the impression Death is more timid than intimidating. I know people shouldn't judge on face value, but when your face looks like Frankenstein's first girlfriend, maybe a lack of company is just something you should come to expect. Although to be fair, all the zombies are kinda weirdly dressed. They're genetic experiments, but still go to the effort of giving them pants. And don't you dare tell me they're genetically weird skin. They created them with pockets. Also, if they're genetic experiments, then what's the motivation behind making some of these zombies incredibly chubby? Typical of fat guys to hang out at a vending machine. However, these complaints are pointless. House of the Dead 3 is a cheesy story, and to me, complaining a story is too cheesy is like complaining porn is too graphic. So if you're an American and for some reason don't have enough cheese in your life, you might as well try it. And if you don't like that, I got 2 more reasons you'd enjoy yourself.